Saint Margaret of Scotland. Chapter 8. Memorials of Saint Margaret in Scotland. Her chapel in Edinburgh Castle. Her well. Queensferry. Her altar in Rome. Conclusion. It still remains to describe in few words some of the principal memorials of this admirable lady, still lingering in the country which she once adorned by her virtues. The picturesque old city of Edinburgh possesses nothing more deeply interesting than the chapel of Saint Margaret in the castle, even if its style does not altogether warrant the opinion entertained by some persons that it is the very same oratory as that in which Saint Margaret made her last communion the morning of her death. It was certainly erected within a short time of that period, while the memory of the saint was still fresh in the country. This little treasure of architecture, for it is no less, had lain for years forgotten, till the intelligent research of Dr. Daniel Wilson, now professor at Toronto, laid open to the public as perfect an example of a Norman building as an antiquary could desire. It has been restored in very good taste, and no Catholic tourist should visit the capital of the North without refreshing his devotion to Saint Margaret by a visit to this little monument. It stands close to the spot whence her blessed spirit passed so long ago to the enjoyment of God. A little to the eastward of Edinburgh there remains a holy well, still called Saint Margaret's. The tradition which connects it with the saint has been lost, but it must evidently have been a place of popular resort in former times. The stone shrine in which it is enclosed is exquisitely designed and carved. It stands almost under the station of the North British Railway, called, from the well, St. Margaret's Station. The Great North Road, which before the invention of the railway connected the capital of Scotland with Perth and the Highlands, conducted the traveller to the margin of the Firth of Forth, 9 miles from Edinburgh. A little town lies here, called Queensferry, from the circumstance of St. Margaret's constantly crossing the ferry at this place on her journeys between Edinburgh and Dunfermline. On a modern cast-iron well, which supplies the public with water, the tourist may see the coat of arms belonging to the Queen's family, and generally known as the Arms of St. Edward. As the Catholic tourist has come so far, he may now cross the ferry, as St. Margaret used to do, and a drive of a very few miles further will bring him to Dunfermline, where she was married, where she worked out the task of her life, and where her remains rested in honor for nearly 600 years. The abbey, as enlarged by her son David, is a noble ruin. The nave of the church stands, and the roofless frater hall, or refectory, of the monks. A visit to this place will suggest many reflections to anyone who has learnt to know and value the memory of our blessed Queen. Her name is found attached to other places all over the country, to a well in Lanarkshire, for example, to a bay on the coast of Fifeshire, and to a village in the Orkney Islands called St. Margaret's Hope. The beautiful little church of St. Andrew, belonging to the Scotch College in Rome, has 3 altars. The high altar is dedicated to the Apostle. The altar on the Gospel side of the church belongs to the Virgin Mother of Jesus, and opposite to it is the altar of St. Margaret. The picture above it, attributed to the pencil of a Polish artist, represents the saint in her sorrowful suspense during the last absence of her husband. She kneels in her oratory, praying and weeping. Her crown is laid aside, and far away we may discern the fatal issue of the day at Alnwick. On reviewing the life of St. Margaret, one cannot fail to be struck by one pregnant fact. Her life was nearly equally divided between inactive suffering and arduous and repulsive labor. Exile, comparative poverty, and vicissitude occupy the first half of her life. The task of civilizing a race of barbarians provided her with ample occupation of no easy kind during the second. All was finished in her 47th year, whether in her early novitiate of humiliation or in her maturer task as Queen of Scotland. By redeeming the time, she made haste to enter into eternal rest. While we admire, let us learn to imitate. Let our tribute to her memory be the fruitful desire of an affection prompting us to follow the object of its regard.